If you've heard people say, Batman isn't a real superhero, and you're like me, then your inner nerd probably hurts. It's a phrase that always irked me because Batman is one of my favorite superheroes. People think that he's lame because he's basically just a rich dude who uses his money to beat people up, which is absolutely true. In their defense, even Batman himself says that he's just
a rich kid with issues.
so they're not entirely wrong there. But the world of Batman is so much more complex than simply presented. See, the thing that makes Batman so special, and indeed a superhero, is the fact that he has no superpowers. That at least on a superficial level, he is just an ordinary man. To start to understand the themes behind Batman, we'll have to look at his cast of villains. Batman has some of the best and most beloved villains, from the Joker to Scarecrow. His roster of villains can go from intimidating to just fun, in a psychotic and murdery kind of way. But if you look closer at these villains, you start to realize that all of Batman's major villains are a reflection of Batman himself. Each of his major villains represent a piece of Batman, but to the extreme, and corrupted in some way. Let's start with Scarecrow, for example. The similarities between him and Batman are easy to spot. They both use fear as a weapon. But whereas Batman would use it to intimidate, Scarecrow just uses it to make his victims go insane. The Riddler, aside from having the most annoying side missions in the Arkham franchise, represents Batman's intelligence. However, Batman never mentions that he's the world's greatest detective, whereas the Riddler is filled with hubris and brags about himself almost every chance he gets. Penguin grew up in a rich family just like Batman did, but instead he chose crime. Poison Ivy represents his sexuality, just like how many women want to be with the playboy Bruce Wayne. A lot of men end up wanting Ivy, except Ivy takes advantage and kills those who want her. The list goes on, but of course we can't talk about the symbolism of the Batman universe without talking about Batman's most popular villain, the Joker. It's funny because when you think of a nemesis for a bat, you wouldn't think of a clown. You'd think of its natural predators like an owl, or a hawk, or habitat loss. Yet, upon closer examination, the Joker acts as the antithesis of Batman. It's a man who never smiles against one who can't stop smiling. One with a rather monotone outfit, and another with a slightly more colorful one. And so, what exactly does Joker represent? What part of Batman is he? Well, the Joker is something very integral to Batman's story. He is his morality. The Joker deserves an analysis on his own, but for now, we'll look at his relationship to Batman. If you look at a lot of portrayals of this character in many stories, the Joker is trying to get Batman to do one thing: abandon his moral code. Batman's famous line that he never crosses is that he will not kill. He'll mess you up to be sure, but he won't kill you. Batman believes that if you kill a criminal, then you are just as bad as they are. Joker represents this part of Batman, but reversed. Joker is Batman's moral code, flipped on its head. If you've ever seen the Christopher Nolan film, The Dark Knight, then you've seen the amazing fairy scene. And this Joker has one point to prove: that when backed into a corner, humans will tear each other apart. He was ultimately unsuccessful in proving this, but the Joker's point still stands. Batman believes that if you kill, you are just as bad as a criminal. Joker is trying to prove that everyone is already that bad, they just haven't been pushed far enough to do it. It's interesting villains like these that start to show why Batman is such a great character and a superhero. He constantly battles against villains that personify himself. One can also see why he's a superhero by looking at the people he saved. For example, let's just take a quick look at the 4 Robins. Like Batman's villains, each of his allies represents a piece of him that is magnified, but this time they represent a part of him that helped him along his journey to become Batman. Dick Grayson, the first Robin, has a very similar story in that his parents were unjustly murdered, but where he really starts to show his similarities to Batman is when he leads the Teen Titans. Dick represents Batman's leadership skills and his charisma. Batman proves he's a capable leader, the Justice League, and has a charisma that other characters admire. Jason Todd represents Batman's anger and aggression, being the only member of the Bat family to break Batman's rule, and he has no problem with killing criminals. Tim Drake is Batman's detective skills, as he is the only character to find out who he really was through detective work. Damian Wayne is Batman's dedication to his mission. Being raised by the League of Shadows to become a great warrior, he's very dedicated to his work as a crime fighter. And he takes it much more seriously than previous Robins. These are Batman's sons, and are an integral part to Batman's story. So what is Batman's story then? Why do I consider him a superhero? Well, if you look over what we've analyzed in Batman's plethora of characters, a rather depressing story can be picked out and analyzed. Batman constantly delves into themes of mental illness and fading mental health. His villains don't go to jail, they go to an insane asylum to get help. Batman uses his money to beat people up at night as a giant bat. And so I propose to you this story. Batman is the story of one who experienced a horrible trauma and now deals with it every day. He fights his demons every night, pushes them down and wins, but in the end, they always come back to haunt him, no matter how many times he beats them. This is why Batman is a superhero. This is why he can't kill, because his villains are him. If he kills one of them, then he takes their place as a criminal. He falls prey to his own demons. He becomes what he hates and what took his parents away from him. He doesn't have powers, because like us, when we are faced with our own insecurities and anxieties, we are not powerful. We don't have superpowers. We're as vulnerable and as weak as an ordinary person. Because Batman is as vulnerable as a human being, he's considered by many to be overrated. But this is why Batman is a superhero, because he's a man whose achievements stands among those of gods. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed my analysis of Batman. If you're new here, I usually do Let's Plays on this channel if you're interested in checking those out. If you like this analysis and want to see more, leave a comment, because I'm not entirely sure if I want to make this into a series or not. Or if you just want to hear more of my lovely voice, consider clicking on that subscribe button. And I'll see you next time.